Hi, I'm not sure. I don't anticipate that you will use this for this project just because I do tend to ramble, so I apologize in advance. Um, I work as a hospice caretaker, and I am constantly surrounded by death, and the experiences that people have are always very different, but there's also a lot of common traits that people experience. Um, I think the thing that took me back the most was the amount of religious people who lived out their lives with the belief that they were going to go to heaven or that they were going to live in eternity with God and that they would just simply leave this world behind and look over us from above. And when it comes down to it, the amount of people whose faith actually dwindles towards the end time. I've seen Catholic priests call in Buddhist priests and Jewish leaders and just pinpoint. They wanted to make sure wherever was truly the right heaven, that they were going to be accepted into that place, regardless of the fact that they had practiced their belief for their entire life and preached it their entire life. They become unsure and they became scared. Like, what if everything that we believed was a lie? What if it's not even real? And I lived my entire life dedicated to this ideology and this belief. So recently, my dad just passed away in November, and he has been a pastor at a Christian church for my entire life, and all he ever did was preach and talk about the gospel and everything. And of course, growing up in the church, you know what you're supposed, how death is supposed to work. It's been infused in you since we were tiny kids. And I flew down to take care of him because that's what I do for the last 5 days of his life. And he didn't know he was going to die. He had cancer, and he believed that God was going to create a miracle and it was going to save him. And for that reason, he refused any medical treatment. But my dad was fully conscious up until the day he passed. He was very aware of everything. He was in denial that it was really happening, but he knew that I knew. And at one point, I took his hand and I said, "Dad, are you scared?" And he looked at me and he said, "No, baby, not even a little bit." I said, "Okay, like, good." But I could see that he was actually scared. He knew what was happening. He took my hand and said, "I feel a shift today." And I said, "That's okay." But to everybody else, he would say, "We're still believing in this miracle that was going to happen." But the people who he understood knew what was happening. He would tell them, like, it's going to be soon. And it's when you lose somebody, and you've been programmed to believe that they're always going to be there, even after death, it's hard to sit here and, like, physically hold his ashes and just kind of be like, is he though? Like, was his fight and point that he was trying to make, was it for nothing? Or, like, I think when you work around death all the time, the idea that we live forever in eternity after this, that our spirit lives on, is kind of hard to believe. when you're just seeing somebody's lifeless body, you know. But in this industry, I've also come to realize that death is a beautiful thing. It brings people together, and it helps us ask questions that maybe when they were here, we didn't want to ask, to get to know them. When you go to a funeral, you get to know these people on levels that you didn't know them before. But this was like the most depressing call you probably ever got. I apologize. But thanks for letting me call.